Today, I am here to chat about how you can develop your vocal agility. This is one of the questions I get asked a lot. And what I am doing and have been doing over the last couple of weeks is going live to just chat a little bit further about some tips that support these most asked questions. And I've covered a whole ton of them in the last I think 13 days. And how to develop vocal agility is definitely one that is asked often. And it is something that I'm personally not that great at as a singer, if I'm absolutely honest. And I am a professional singer, and I have been for 28 years. And I'm also a vocal coach and have been for the last 7 years, predominantly working with emerging and established artists. And this is something that I used to hear quite a bit when I was a vocal tutor at a tertiary education institution called Mains. This is one that would come up all the time, like the ability to develop your vocal agility to be able to do riffs and runs. And specifically, I think from a stylistic perspective, it's a contemporary tool or a contemporary genre that this tool is used in, and very much so in R&B and certainly in pop music as well, soul sometimes as well. Anything that is what's called an ornamentation, where you're dressing up like a Christmas tree, you're dressing up with some ornaments, with whether it's a fall off at the end of a phrase or a blue note or a slide into the note, stylistically. So any of these tools, including melismas or riffs and runs, these are tools for embellishing or dressing up the process of storytelling, or really connecting in your own way, like your signature style. Like we think of some signature sounds, Mariah Carey and her whistle tone, maybe Adele and her warm dark timbre. And ornamentation, like riffs and runs, can certainly be something that you can add to your singer's technique toolkit to kind of jazz things up a little bit. But where does it all start? It starts with having agility of your vocal folds. And how do we get that, right? So the first thing we need always, and for me as a vocal coach, vocal health is number one. And certainly the efficiency of sound production is number two. And often what stops that, even before we start to do any of these cool techniques or ornamentation stylistically, is tension. So you need to be sure that you're releasing any tension, most certainly at the source of the sound. But because your body houses your instrument, certainly pays to do full body stretches and check in with your body. And I have a series of stretches that I call singer stretches, which are pretty much kind of standard from about the neck down, and then really singer specific for the tongue and the jaw, and of course the vocal folds from the neck up. So that's the first thing that you would do. You'd make sure your vocal health is on point. You would make sure that you're releasing tension, and then you can stretch your voice with a siren. That's the first tip. Regular sirens are a great wake up for the voice, the speaking voice and the singing voice. It's a check-in to see how your voice is feeling, but it does that all important lengthening throughout your entire range to encourage agility, because the more pliable the instrument is, the more that you're going to be able to do with it. So that's the very first tip. The other thing you can do, that's kind of out of context of singing or making sound, in context, is to actually do lots of scales, lots of different scales, so that you're challenging your voice in particular intervallic leaps of the scale, but then also in different keys, because a lot of scales, of course, will move from one key to the next as you ascend or as you descend. That's a great tool as well. And whilst that's in context of a scale, it's not exactly in context of a song. And so the third tip that I have for you is to use riffs from songs that you really, really love. Now, one that I really dig is Beyonce's Countdown. And then right at the beginning of the song, it does this great pattern. Ba-do-da-do, 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 ba-do. But heaps faster, really connected, and she's singing a word over it. So she's not even like melismering, she's actually singing, boy. That was a little bit shaky, but you get it. I did give you a disclaimer at the front end that riffs and runs are not my thing. But that's a cool one. And how you do it is you break it down. So you break down each of the notes of the melisma, and you might need to use a tool like the Amazing Slow Downer to isolate. Well, thank you very much, Miss Ella Monnery, queen of the riff and run. You might want to slow it down a little bit so that you can actually identify what the notes are, and then you incrementally speed it up. And a great way of riffing and running, yes, is to challenge yourself at different paces. Slow is actually quite hard. Slow is super hard. And then speed it up past the actual tempo that it's written in as well. Try it at lots of different speeds so that your voice gets a chance to be challenged in context of this particular riff and run and at different speeds. Then try different vowel sounds. You know, whilst Beyonce's singing boy, you might want to do like throughout all of the vowel sounds, ah, eh, e, o, u. So you might want to do ah, e. And with my clients, we might break down a particular phrase or a bar or something like that, and we'll spotlight that exact phrase, and we'll use that as a tool to tweak. So we might run through all the different voice qualities, all the different melisma or ornamentation options, all the way through from the lowest note that we can sing comfortably right through the highest note, completely out of context of the key. But it gives you that agility around the entire, you're using a particular phrase throughout your entire range, and that's what gives you that overall vocal ability. So you can use it isolated, like with a siren, just stretch for your vocal folds. You can use it out of context, but in the context of using vowel sounds as part of a vocal workout or scales, running through scales. You can use it in context where you're riffing on a particular, copying a particular riff or run or a trill or melisma, and then ideally make your own up, you know, whether it's your own songs or you want to play around with a particular scale like the pentatonic scale, which is a great scale used often in contemporary music. And the pentatonic scale, I always think of the beginning of My Girl as a way to remind me what it is. Bum, 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 bum. So that's the pentatonic scale in a nutshell. Look, you got a bit of theory as well today. Those are my best tips for improving your, developing your vocal agility. It's a ton of fun. And, you know, as part of your practice plan, really set aside time to focus on what you want to develop the most. Now, if it is vocal agility, I highly recommend incorporating singing through of some scales. There are a ton of great apps that you can download for free or very low cost that you can utilize to help just sing along with those. And as part of my practice plan, now, my pillar for my coaching clients and for my own personal practice consists of 4 cyclical stages, which is prepare, practice, polish, and perform. Now, within the prepare phase, it's all about daily vocal care habits, and sirens would fall into that. Practice is, as it sounds, creating an effective practice plan that's focused, personalized to what I'm working on in that moment, whether it's learning songs for a show or developing vocal agility and spotlighting particular runs and riffs, or any phrase in the song that I'm working on. Polish is a chance for me to almost get into rehearsal mode, where I'm taking the song as a whole, I'm breaking it down to breath management, voice quality options, pitch, key, anything at all that I can isolate and personalize or adapt or troubleshoot. That's my polish phase, and often you'll be incorporating other things like I said, you'll be in context of the song versus just practicing isolated parts of a scale randomly in your practice plan. And then you might get into polishing further with rehearsals with your band or by yourself. And then, of course, performance encourages you to create performance opportunities because we don't all have them piled up, waiting for us for whatever reason. So videoing yourself and watching yourself back in practice, in your performances, and posting to YouTube or creating a live stream or a house concert, whatever you've got capacity for, that's what that performance phase is about encouraging. And then, of course, there are tons of tips that we can talk about to enhance your performance, both your experience and tools for engaging with the audience and storytelling, both with your voice and with your physical performance. But that's my framework. And so practice within that is where I would pop my vocal agility workouts. Now, if you're unclear of where you are within that framework and what you should focus on first, I'm hosting a masterclass today at 1 o'clock New Zealand Standard Time, which is like an hour and 45 minutes. That's going to give you 4 questions. It's your 4 must-ask questions for developing your voice. And it's going to tell you exactly where you are, which stage you're at in my framework. And then I will give you some really clear tips and a bit of a personalized plan to help you work through that particular stage. And because it's cyclical and we end up at all of those different stages at different points, I'm going to give you an overview of all of the steps. So if you want to jump into that, you can sign up at Big Notes Get Votes /quiz-masterclass, and that is going to be running at 1 o'clock today. So jump into that. But otherwise, I hope that you found it super helpful to see how to develop your vocal agility and the steps that you can use to explore your voice. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And I'm going to come back tomorrow with one more little focus live to share something super special with you about how you can focus on developing your voice overall, and that'll be at 11 o'clock New Zealand Standard Time again. Let me know if you've got questions. I love answering them, and I hope that you have an amazing day.